Hello and welcome back to the Fermented World Homebrew channel. Today, we've got some grain, we've got some honey, we've got some leftover hops. Now there's only a very small amount of hops in here. I am going to weigh them out. It's got mosaic, dorado, citra and centennial. Now there's literally minimal amounts of each one, probably about a gram, if that. We've also got some yeast that was left over from which is now dribbling all over the place. So it's definitely activated after coming out of the fridge. Some yeast that I used for another beer. And today we're making a Braggot. You can wash my hands now in the sanitizing liquid. So I'm over this side and I'm recording from this angle to try and get it all in one shot without having to fart around moving the camera. I nearly swore there. I do like to swear. But I try and keep the language on here clean because some people don't appreciate it. So we are using 2 kilograms of best ale malt, as a Braggot is an ale that has fermented honey in as well. It is 1,440 if my math is correct, which it probably isn't because I'm crap at maths. We've got 2 campden tablets, which we've crushed down, and in there you go. That's what sterilises the water. We are going to need some scales. Which I do not know where they are. They have vanished. Right, so we're going to guesstimate. I'm going to try and estimate what 1 gram of gypsum powder would be, which is going to be bloody difficult because it's extremely light and extremely fluffy. So I'm going to go for that. I'm going to guess that that's 1 gram. If not, sod it. I cannot find my scales. I have got another pair of scales, but they're not as accurate, so I'm not using them. So we've got that in there. Everybody's setup's a little bit different. For me, I've got I want to say a 15 litre pan. And I'm going to be putting in 9 litres of water into the strike. And we're going to be using 4 litres of water for the sparge. Now, I am going to speed most of this up because this takes a very long time and I'm already behind on schedule because I tried to tidy up, as you can see. And these bloody fruit flies are doing my head in. Yeah, let's get some water in here and we'll speed this a little bit up. Ain't nobody stopping me. Ain't nobody. As I said, I'm going to speed certain bits up, but I will write a caption and let people know what it is that I'm doing. So we've got a strike water. It looks a considerable amount less than what I'm used to putting in, but that stands to reason because there's 2 litres less. We're going to be mashing this at 65 degrees, so we need the water a little bit higher. So I always put it up to 70, right? Just so that when you add your bag and then the grain, which are at room temperature, it chills it ever so slightly. So, and what you need is you need that to be at that temperature because that's what converts the starches that are inside these lovely grains into sugar, fermentable sugar. And I've requested these grains to be left hold, and I don't know why, I just like it like that. This is from Brew Supplies. They ship all over the UK. They're my go-to place for stuff, unless it's an emergency. And then there's a local homebrew store, probably about, I want to say maybe 7 miles down the canal. Nice little route if I do need anything in an emergency. So what I'm going to do is, because that yeast is kicking off, which is a good thing, we want it to. We want to know that it's still active. I'm going to put it in that little tub, just so we're good. Now I don't know whether this yeast is going to take to this Braggot, whether it's going to work. I've never reused the beer yeast before, but I've heard good things. So I have no idea what ABV this is going to be. This is literally the first time I've ever tried this recipe. I don't know whether I'm adding too much grain. I don't know whether I'm adding too much honey, but we're going to find out. Oh yes, we're definitely going to find out. So this is going to come up to 70 degrees. Then we're going to add the brew bag. We're going to clamp it down. This grain's going to be crushed shortly while that water's heating up, and then we'll get this on the go and we'll see what we can't make. I'm back temporarily. There's been a change to the plan. I'm going to do a normal size batch of this, which is going to be 11.5 litres. So we need another 2 litres of water in there. And this is because I was going to be using a smaller fermenter, which is why I'd said, you know, I'm only going to do it to that. But adding the honey is going to add volume as well. So we're going to do 1 litre less than anticipated. So I've got sterilising water. You know what, it'll be alright. If anything, it will sterilise. It'll give me more sterilising water. I mean, hell, I put enough of the steriliser in. So an extra litre in there. So that makes that 10 litres. Reason why I'm not doing the 11 is because when you put this in, it will make the volume rise, obviously. Even though it mixes in, it adds to the volume. I'm going to weigh out my hops now to see what each individual one is. So, if you can see smoke, don't worry. The house isn't on fire, it's just some incense. I've got some fruit flies in here and they're doing my flipping head in. I cannot get rid of them. So, in the comments, any tips on fruit flies? Fire away. I will most definitely listen and do whatever you tell me to do. As long as it's not insane like stand on one leg, click your fingers and pick your nose. Because that'll just be daft. Because that's not going to get rid of any bloody fruit flies, is it? Anyway, rambling on. Let us weigh out some hops. Right, so that's the hops weighed out. We have got about 16 grams in total. Close to 17, but I remember it saying 16. We've got 4.3 grams of mosaic, 3 grams of centennial, 0.6 grams of citra, which is negligible. It's not really going to make a difference, but this is just using stuff up from another brew. And 8.3 grams of dorado. So total of 16 grams. And that's all going in as something that we call a hop stand. So once this is finished its boil, once we've actually created the work, after the 60 minutes point, what we'll then do is we'll shut the heat off, we'll chill it to 80 degrees, then we'll add the hops. That'll infuse for 20 minutes, and at that same point is when we're going to be adding the honey. Honey and hot water are made for each other. It just makes it so much easier to mix it into hot water than it does to cool or lukewarm or even room temperature. So this is now ready to rock and roll. So what we are going to do is quickly go and mill this grain, because I was supposed to do that while doing this, but I decided to have something to eat and forgot about the grain. So there we go, I'm gonna go do that. Stopping me. Ain't nobody stopping me. Right, so the strike water's now at the temperature we need. So what we're going to do is we're going to be adding our brew bag, and we're going to clamp this brew bag down so that it's not going to be moving anywhere. The heat is off. I'm going to bring that down to about there. We're going to do a little cord. I'm going to tighten that up just to keep things snug. I'm going to and bring that down to around there. Then what we're going to do is we're going to get clamps, and we're going to kind of like shape the bag, if you will, if that makes any sense at all. Now, the other day whilst using this bag brewing another beer, I screwed up, totally screwed up. The bag snagged and it launched, worked, and flipping grain, sugary grain all over the sodding place. So hopefully we won't repeat that mistake, and we'll get the bag about right. Here's hoping. Although it does look rather baggy, with it being a bag of course, but I mean, it's not as neat in there as I'd like it to be. I think we need a bit more slack everywhere, possibly. Oh, well, we'll find out whether it screws up or not next, won't we? In with your grain. You can just lob it in. We're going to mix it in a sec. We will scrape that all out shortly. Now, you can do this manually, but I just prefer not to. I found this way of doing it with this and it works. Some people want to do it manually. Now, if I did do it manually, I wouldn't have the issue that I did have with all the stuff spraying everywhere last time, but I've learnt my lesson. I'm going to be careful. And concentrate more. Well, that's the plan anyway. This is where it's all the magic is gonna happen. So we're gonna leave that like that and find something for that to rest on where it's not touching anything because it's been sterilised. Why is there a dog hair on that? The veggie dog. Yeah, dog hair's not required, but you can put it in if you want to. Right, lid's on, set an alarm for 1 hour. And normally I take the DOG for WAOK. But before I do that, I've got to sterilise a bucket, which is why I spelt it instead of saying it. Because otherwise it'll be in here like one. That's set. That's going to infuse in there for an hour, and we shall be back. So this is the part where we're going to move over to the sink area. You're not going to be able to see everything I'm doing, but I'm going to try and do it from the side so you can see as much as possible. So we're heating the sparge water. We're going to heat that to 76 degrees. I don't know why it's 76 degrees, but that is what they tell you to do in most beers. So that is what we are going to do. So we can lift the lid off. We can let all that condensation dribble back into there. So we're going to hoist this up now. We're going to move this over to the sink. We're going to lift the bag, the drawstring, wherever it may be. Loosen that off a little bit. And we're going to be able to then grab this bag on. Now I use a brew in the bag method of brewing. You can obviously do it your own preferred way. If you've got an electric kettle, electric brewer, whatever you want to call it, then you are more than welcome to do that. You do not need to brew in the bag just because I am. You can do it your own little way, as you see fit. And the idea is, rest it on a grill of some description, twist the bag so it's able to cause a knot, make a knot, and then just let that dribble through. What I should have done is heated the water before this point, and that would mean that we're not having to then wait. So that's going to dribble into there until we've got this water up to 76 degrees, and then very, very slowly we're going to use this jug and we're going to do something called sparging. Now that is literally rinsing the grain through very, very slowly. And basically we're going to go around in a circular motion, and we're going to be washing all of the excess sugars out of those grains. Okay, so now to sparge. Make sure your handles of your pan aren't hot. These are, but they're not terribly hot. Very carefully, you're going to tip your heated water into there, which was about 4 litres. That's a little bit shy of it, but then what you're going to do is, ever so slowly, you're gently going to rinse. What I do is I go once round, and then a long bit in the middle, and then once round. You're pretty much putting a trickle through it, and you want to make sure that obviously your bag is over the pan, or you'll have it seeping down the sides. And I'm going to speed this bit up.
Oh, that's real good.
Okay, so we've got this at boiling point. Set your alarm for 1 hour. In 1 hour we shall be back and we'll see what we've got. You want it at a rolling boil so that it is boiling. 60 minutes. So 1 hour from now we'll come back, we'll get the immersion cooler on it. We'll chill it down to 80 degrees, we'll add the honey and the hops, and we'll leave it for 20 minutes. After that point, we're then going to strain it off, catching all of the hops, catching any of the bits of the husk and stuff that's managed to find its way in here. And then, that's it. We cool it then, add the yeast, which we've got on the side there, which is from another beer. Now, reusing yeast, they say don't reuse it more than 3 times. You can take your yeast out and store it in the fridge for about a week, right? Mine's a little bit over a week, it's probably a week and a half. I just never got around to doing it. So just bear that in mind. It doesn't last forever, but you can save it. You need it in some sort of container, but don't clamp the lid down. Like I left the lid on one of these. This is the one with the hops in, but I left like this with the lid just resting on top so that it could do whatever it needed to do as and when it needed to do it. If it doesn't work for whatever reason, I've got some other yeast, an actual Nottingham brand, which is my hometown. It's not branded, sorry, it's like a strain that was found in Nottingham. And this company called Ladamund, whatever. I managed to harness it and package it. So Nottingham yeast. Okay, so that is the 1 hour boil. Now we have our post boil amount. This is what we're going to be fermenting. So we're going to be chilling this down to 80 degrees. Nearly forgot then. Nearly forgot one of the basics. Obviously I've got one of these because I brew a lot of beer. If you don't have one of these, do not worry about it. Don't feel the need to go and buy one if you're only going to brew one beer in your life. Now if you're going to carry on brewing beer, this is a must. Now, the actual recipe that I saw for one of these in a book that I've got says to use the malt extract, but I wanted to use the grain, so I decided to use the grain and just winged it, and we'll see what bloody happens. I might knacker it up, it might be something that's not right, but we'll work on that. It's a work in progress. So, as I said, obviously cold water goes through here, goes around the coil there, and out into the sink, and that will chill our wort. You've got to keep your eye on it because it does drop rather quickly. It doesn't take long to take 20 degrees off it. So I'm going to speed this bit up and we'll be back when it is chilled. So it's gone a little bit lower than what we wanted it to be. Wanted it at 80, it's at 75. I'm not too bothered. It's going to be perfectly fine. It's going to give us pretty much the same result anyway. And if I put it back on the top of this hob, it will probably heat it back up to what we wanted it at anyway. So, in this instant, what we are going to do is we're going to add the hops. Hops go in. 20-minute timer starts now. Now that's going to be releasing all that hoppy goodness. I'll give it a good stir in. It will give it a nice hoppy flavour, but it shouldn't, by rights, give too much bitterness. We are about to add the honey as well. Can't forget the honey in a Braggot, otherwise it'd just be a beer. So, in goes the honey. 1,440 grams. Again, I'm just winging it. Like I said, I'm not 100% sure whether this is going to be any good. I hope it is. I hope it's good. What we can do is we can take a bit of this wort and throw it all over the place. Apparently, we'll use that to rinse out the tub, the pot, the jar. What is it? I don't know what it is. The hot water will make light work of that. Adding the oxygen now isn't a problem. Later on, big problem, which is why we're adding it while it's hot. Pop that upside down, and we'll do the same again with this one. So now that's the honey and the hops in. That's going to sit for another 15 minutes doing its thing. Now, mixing that in then, I got an almighty burst of hoppiness that I haven't smelt from a hop stand before. So I think in future, I'm going to use the mixer for it. Obviously, it was only to mix the honey in, which we double check now actually, that we have got it all in. And there's none still on the bottom of the pan anywhere. With the water being hot, it should have mixed in really, really well. Yeah, we're good. So, back in 13 minutes now. 20 minutes up. Now, we're going to chill this wort down to kitchen temperature of about 20 degrees. Which it might take about 10 minutes. So we'll be back in 10 minutes. So check the temperature again. Yep, below 20 now, so we are good. Turn your water off or take it out of the sink if that's where you've been chilling it. Disconnect this. So we've chilled it. It's down to below 20 degrees now, which is a bit cooler than what we expected, but that's life. Now we're going to drain out this hops. So we're going to tip it into this strainer. Which will snag any hops or bits or debris or anything like that. I mean, to be fair, there wasn't a great deal of hops in there, so it's not done a bad job, really. We'll let that drain through, then we'll be taking it over there to put the yeast in. So that's done a really good job of that. Normally this takes a lot longer because there's a lot more hops in there, but because we didn't have any hops in the boil, it's sped it all up a little bit, which is nice. Give it a bit of a squeeze, try and get as much hops flavour out of that as possible. We've paid for it, so we most definitely want it. There we are. Just like that, that can sit there for a sec. Quick rinse of the hands. And we're going to pitch the yeast. So we've got this murky looking liquid at the moment. We do need to take a hydrometer reading to see what we're working with. If you're not familiar with what a hydrometer is, it's an instrument that tells us what the gravity of a liquid is, i.e. how much sugar is in there that's going to be fermentable. Now it looks quite high, which is a bit on the oops side, because that's like 90, which means this is going to be 80, 88, which is extremely high. It's extremely high. The tolerance of this yeast is up to 11%. I'm going to dilute it with a litre of water. Or actually no, I'm just going to bring this whole thing up to 12 litres. I'm going to move it off there because that's not, for some reason my oven isn't straight and I'm unable, every time I try and straighten it, it just bulges up. So that's about 11 litres. So some more water. And get it up to the 12. It'll dilute it a little bit, not a great deal. So it could very well have been too much grain or too much honey. That's about the 12 mark. Let's give that a little mix. Make sure that we're mixed in. To give a decent enough reading and an accurate reading, more to the point of what we're going to be fermenting here. Now, adding a litre, it's not going to have changed it too much. It may even need another litre. We don't want it too strong, really. So So that's at the 80 mark, which is still quite strong. But we're not going to ferment all the way out because of the grain, you see. So I'm going to say that's 1.080. Quick calculation to see what we could potentially get. So it's got a potential to reach about 9.5%. That's not the figure I had in my mind. I was hoping more for a 7 with some residual sweetness. Sorry, the dog's coming for his biscuits as always. That's what I was hoping for. But with a start gravity of 80, that's what we're looking at. So we're going to rock and roll with this as it is, and we're just going to see what happens, see what we get, see what we make of it. If it turns out nice, good. If we stumble along the way and can't quite nail it, then we change it next time. Simple as that. It's all about development. Oh, this yeast is bubbling away. Look at that, happy as you like. And it's going to be like a pig in poo in here. Going to love it. Ooh. That did not look nice going in there whatsoever. Oh my giddy aunt. It's just like it's like a turd. I'm trying not to disturb it too much, but we do want all of it in there, as it's already formed a colony, which means it should have a very, very good head start. Oh my goodness. No one ever mentioned reusing yeast was disgusting. Right, so we're going to mix that in. It's kind of curdled in a way, but that's not really a problem because I'm going to get the mixer on it in a second. And that should solve our problem. Yeah, it doesn't look very appetizing. Now the fact that there was like, I want to say like nearly half a packet's worth in the bottom of the last beer that I scooped out into that tub. I'm hoping that that is going to be a nice amount for it to be getting on with. We're going to label this up. We're going to write the recipe down in a little book. It's always worth writing your recipes down. You never know when you're going to develop something that's absolutely amazing, and if you don't record things like I do, then sometimes you'll lose that and you won't know what you've done. You won't know what you put in it, and you don't know what made it good. So if you can, get into a habit of just scribbling it down in a little book. It'll make the world of difference. Label this up as Braggot. And we'll give it a date, which is 30th, 4th, 24, and the original gravity was 1.080. Now that is pretty high for a beer, but we had the extra honey in there. Now the honey will go completely fully fermented out. The malt, on the other hand, will leave some sweetness behind. So we're not going to get a kick-ass 13% or anything like that. I did double check about the yeast that's in this. It's ranging between 9 and 11 tolerance. So we're in that parameter of getting a good beer, a nice ABV, and hopefully maybe a little bit of honey left over, or not, as the case may be. But we will find out. Until next time, y'all take it easy, and I'll see you all soon.
Why it stopped me?